Today, we welcome to the show hypnotherapist and host of the YouTube channel Peaceful Rebellion, Gordon Smith Duran. Did I say that right?
You said it perfectly well. Perfectly
I tried
well.
to do it in a Spanishy way.
Welcome to the show, Gordon. So lovely to have you on, and we're very excited to introduce you to our audience.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. It's a real privilege.
I want to start off, first of all, Gordon, we really love the name of your channel, Peaceful Rebellion. It's just such a cool name. How did you come up with that?
It was a process of, I was thinking about what was happening in the world, and I was thinking, well, what we want is, we want to rebel against what's happening, but we don't want to do it in the old-fashioned way, pushing. I learned a long time ago, and it's to do with the therapies that I learned, that if you push against something, what you resist persists. If you push against it, you're going to give it energy. So that's why I think the rebellion that we need to demonstrate is a peaceful one, which is just no. It's just saying no. That's all. It's easy. So that's why I thought of it. I actually have an album that I called Peaceful Rebellion, and when I named the album, I thought, oh, I think I could have a channel with the same name. That would be nice.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll make sure that we link everything below the channel so people can find you, and get on board with what you're doing and what you're presenting in your content, because it is beautifully done, and you do just sort of short videos, really, really easy to digest and understand, and help people step by step, really, through the struggles that we experience day to day now with this world that we live in, which is very different to what it was even 2 years ago. Of course, we've moved a lot further on than that. But I guess we wanted to start out by just going maybe back to the beginning, in the sense that maybe let the audience know about how you became a hypnotherapist, or where that journey first started for you, what got you interested in that. And also, did you have an awakening of sorts early on in your life?
Okay, great questions. So I've always been interested in hypnosis, even when I was a child. Even I wasn't allowed to be, because I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. And you're not allowed to get it. Hypnosis is with the devil. But I was fascinated by it. And I've always been aware that I had this desire to help people. What happened was I got into a career. I worked for the man, got into a career, and it really wasn't my path. It wasn't my thing at all. But I was doing it because it was the right thing to do. And then I was extremely unhappy. And one day, thank God, the universe said, we're going to take all of that off you. And so basically, the universe took every single thing off me and my family. I'm talking about my marriage, my house, my job, my car, everything. And I left. I had 2 suitcases. And I kind of said to myself, what am I going to do? Now, what am I going to do? And I was really excited at the time, even I shouldn't have been, but I was thinking, the potential's enormous. So what happened? And I met a beautiful woman who supported me. My wife supports me. And so basically I started on the path of, well, I think I'll do what I want now. I'll do I'll start being authentic. And so I learned NLP, then I learned hypnosis, and I just loved it. And I went down the road of learning as many different therapeutic modalities as I could. So it was kind of like I've lived 2 lives. I've lived a life that was false, the one that many, many people are living right now, which was, I'm not being true to myself. And then the second part of my life was, now I can be true to myself. And it's when that happens, everything changes in your life, and suddenly you're happy, and I'm happy.
So that was really your awakening, when all of those things were taken away from you. Do you feel like then it was almost like an overnight thing, really, for you? Because I know that I personally had an awakening at 11, and mine was a very long, drawn out process of healing, and sort of teaching myself and my family, helping me along the way. Do you feel like yours was more overnight and it just all clicked suddenly?
When I look back on what happened, when I had everything taken off me, I wasn't awake as I am now. I was awake to the fact that, hang on a minute, I've just wasted I didn't waste, but I was in the wrong direction for 40 years. Now I need to go in a different direction. So that was a kind of an awakening in itself. And it was very quick because the universe was very swift, and it just went, we're taking it all off you. That's it. Yeah. But then it wasn't until a little later when some unknown, beautiful person put a DVD through my door. And it was about the two, I'll be careful what I say, the two towers, and the fact that they fell and why. So, and it was this DVD, and we sat down, my wife and I, and we watched it, and just, that was the moment of, yeah. And you just asked the question, oh, if they can lie about that, what else are they lying about? If they're happy to kill people, in what other way are they happy to kill people? So that was the moment in which really I woke up to really what's happening. And that's been that was 16 years ago. So it's been a long process of, I feel really fortunate because I know so many people who've woken up only in the last 6 months, 2 years, and they've had to assimilate such a lot of information. I had 15 years. So over the 15 years, I was able to adjust my life. And what happened was we adjusted our lives so much to divorce ourselves from the cult of society that when this happened 2 years ago, everything was in place for us to be able to manage it really well. But I feel for people who've just woken up and are having this download of information, which must blow their mind. So I had time, thankfully.
I think there are probably positives to maybe being awake for longer because you've had more time to process things. But there are also some positives to maybe just going through this process now because you haven't had all of that time and all of that, in a sense. I don't really want to refer to it as baggage because it's experiences that have helped us to learn and to grow and to expand our consciousness. The waiting is what the difficult part is for us, for those of us that have had awakenings earlier on in life or been awake to what's been going on, or even just questioning things. A lot of people have always, they've had that thing of going, this just doesn't feel right. Like, why are we forced to do this job? Why is the world like this? Why are we answering to these kinds of people? So a lot of people have probably questioned that. And this is the beautiful part of this awakening process, is that now people are allowed to actually express how they feel. And it's not seen as bizarre or conspiracy and that sort of thing, at least not in these circles. And it's becoming more widespread now. So that's the beauty. And I guess it's taken a big kind of explosive event like what we've had over the past couple of years to really kickstart that process. And I know we'll talk a little bit later on in the conversation about, you said on one of your YouTube videos, it was a great video, talking about the 5 waves of the Great Awakening, and we'll touch on that. But I guess we're really only experiencing the first part of that now. So I'd like to, get more of your thoughts on that as we go through later on. We wanted to just start, I guess, the conversation with a little bit more about your hypnotherapy and the skills you have in that area and what you do now for a living. So maybe just for people that don't understand hypnosis, can you explain it in quite sort of simple terms? And explain how it's actually used as a healing modality, because no doubt we will need a lot of healing, or people will need a lot of healing as we move through this Great Awakening process.
Sure, yeah. So hypnosis is something that's very natural. We think of hypnosis as a process that's separate, but basically we as humans, we go into hypnosis 20 or 30 times every day, naturally. And they're the moments where we drift off, we catch ourselves staring into space, we have a thought and we don't know what it is that we were thinking about. This is hypnosis. The reason that we go into hypnosis is because the body heals 10 times faster in hypnosis than it does in any other state. So it's just a healing little place that we go into. The reason that hypnosis works so well to help people is this. In very simplistic terms, if we look at a timeline, from the age of 0 to 11, we are in hypnosis. For the first, when babies are born, they are in the deepest hypnosis that you can possibly get. And that's why you try and get the attention of a newborn baby. It's not easy. They're off in their own little world, and sometimes they come and you have a lucid moment and then they're off again, okay? The reason that babies are in hypnosis, because it was designed that way. But in hypnosis, the unconscious mind is at the forefront, and that's the part of our mind that learns very, very quickly, that can take stuff in. That's why we say children are like sponges. They're like sponges because they're in hypnosis. Okay, so what happens is we stay in hypnosis until we get around about to 11, 12, and then we're out, and then we're fully in the world. In hypnosis, what happens is in the first few years of our life, if we have a beautiful experience, especially the first 6, 7 years, if everything goes beautifully well, our parents are wonderful and we have no trauma, then we go through life beautifully. The problem is, if anything goes wrong if we suffer trauma whilst we're in hypnosis in those first few years, then it's almost like we go through life with a buckled wheel. We're like a little bit wobbly. Because we have, what happens is, when we're faced with trauma, we blame ourselves. Children always blame themselves. They don't blame the adults, because adults for them are gods, are all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful. So when something goes wrong, if they don't get the love that they believe they need, if they don't get they don't get the approval, they think it must be them. And so they make a little program like, well, if nobody's giving me love, maybe I'm not lovable. Or if nobody's approving of me, maybe I need to work harder to get people's approval. And then what happens is they start to do that for the rest of their life. And so once the program's made, it runs, because the unconscious mind just runs the program like a PC, just runs it. Our job as therapists with hypnosis is to go back, find the program, and override it with something a bit more useful. Yeah. So if you go to, the modern medicine, I've got my opinions on that, but what they do, if you go to a psychologist, he will sit and talk to you about your problem for ages, for years, and nothing happens. Why? Because he's talking to the conscious mind, right? No, we need to go to the unconscious mind, and we need to tell the unconscious mind that there was a mistake made and that we need to do a new program. So that's all that we do in hypnosis, is go back, it's almost like finding the root of the weed. We have a weed that grows through our life. In hypnosis, you can go back, find the root, pull the root out, and the whole weed withers. In modern medicine, they deal with the weed up here, the big weed. Let's talk about this big weed. And of course, we know what weeds are like. If you pull the leaves off a weed and leave it in a week, it's grown back, because you've got to get the root. So that's kind of a metaphor of what hypnosis is. Go back, find out where the problem was made, find out what decisions were made or what programs were made, and change them. And that's it, in its simplistic form.
So Gordon, that's great. I think that was really nice and simple for everyone to understand if they don't know too much about it. And to be honest, I don't really know too much. And I don't think, Carly, I've had one hypnosis session, and it was when I was 15, so it was a long time ago. But I don't know, it might have been a psychologist that I had it with. I can't even remember. But all I remember feeling in the moment was I was really uncomfortable, probably because I didn't resonate with the person very well, and my mind was just going, and I didn't feel like I could let go at all. So I had a couple of questions around that. So do you find in your experience with your clients that everyone is receptive to this kind of therapy? And is there a certain level of having to be able to let go, in a sense, to receive it to its fullest benefits?
Great question. Yeah. So 95% of the people who come to me have never experienced hypnosis before, because lots of people come for past life regression and higher self work in hypnosis. So that it's a one-off type of experience. And 90% of the people say, I don't know if I'm going to go into hypnosis. I don't know if I can let go. Yeah. And the vast majority do. The only thing that stops people from going into hypnosis is fear, in whatever level, whatever way that's expressed. If you're not comfortable with the person and you don't trust them, that's fear. And so it's very unlikely that you are going to go into a receptive state of hypnosis. So there's got to be rapport between your therapist and yourself. You've got to trust them. But actually going into hypnosis, one of the biggest comments that I have is, I'm not sure whether I was in hypnosis or not. Yeah, it's common because people, what have we seen? We've seen hypnosis, stage hypnosis, which is this, sleep. Okay. And the person's like this, and everybody thinks because the hypnotherapist or the hypnotist has said sleep, and their head's like this, that they must be asleep. And they're not. They're completely awake. Not awake, but they're completely aware. They're just following the instruction of the hypnotherapist. So when people go into clinical hypnotherapy, which is what I use, it's clinical hypnotherapy. This is hypnotherapy to heal people. Then they're expecting to not be able to hear me. And I say to them, no, you've really got to hear me. Because if you can't hear me, we're not going to do anything. If you can't hear me, if you're asleep, how am I going to help you? So it's kind of a misconception, that's all, of what hypnosis is. Hypnosis is an altered state of awareness, but you're still aware. You're just it's like a sideways movement outside of the normal.
So can anyone have hypnotherapy? It doesn't have to be a certain type of character, or you're just basically saying anyone that's not fearful can, come into your office, or maybe you do sessions online and they can have hypnotherapy. But in order to get the benefits, is there usually a certain number of sessions that's required?
It depends on what we want to do. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I want to have a past life experience and I want to talk to my higher self, one session, no problem at all. Absolutely. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I have this problem, and it can be, there are two different situations. The problem that's manifesting itself is not really the problem. That's just the presenting problem. And so what I say to people is, look, if imagine it's weight, okay? So they've got problems with the weight. The problem is not the weight. The problem is why are they actually overeating? What is it why are they using food as a comfort? Why are they happy with their life? And so that's when I would need to say to the person, look, if we're going to work with this, I'm probably going to need at least 4 or 5 sessions with you to be able to get to where we need to get to. So, because your client doesn't know what the problem is. People come to you, they don't know what the problem is. They know they've got a problem, but they don't know why they've got that problem. And our job as therapists is to actually dig down and find out what the root of the problem is. And invariably, and I know it sounds rather cliche, but it's the childhood. It's issues that happened at childhood, because that's where the damage is done. That's where the damage is done at childhood. And then my job is to help them to repair that. And normally when you repair that, when you repair the hurt, the trauma, you overwrite the programs, life puts itself right, typically.
So I feel like, Gordon, most people probably don't remember necessarily the traumas that they have had as a child. I mean, some people would, but a lot of things just, you blank out. I mean, you just don't remember what happened at 4 years old or what happened at 5 years old, and maybe where that trauma actually started. Does this hypnosis actually identify those core wounds for the client? And then that's how you start the healing process?
Yeah, the nice thing about hypnosis is this. Really, if I was going to say what I work with emotions. And so with hypnosis, what we do is we get the client to face the emotion that's causing them the issue. Right? You imagine somebody who overeats, and you say, well, when you get that desire to overeat, what do you feel? What's the emotion? Well, I feel empty. Okay, so that's what we want to find the root of. So what we do in hypnosis is we follow that emptiness back to the very first event, the very first time. So often we'll go back to when there were 3 or 4, and they're not necessarily really big events. Trauma in children, you see, it's not what happens, it's how you represent it to yourself. 2 people can see the same event. One person is traumatized by it and one person doesn't give a monkeys about it. Why? Because the person who's traumatized has taken that in a different way, has represented that to themselves in a different way. What I found, some of the what you call the first significant event can be something as simple as a parent leaving a child in a cot on their own, and the child thinks they've been abandoned. And so they go through their life with abandonment issues because they believe that they've been left. And so they're not necessarily events that you would have in your mind. I mean, we have events, but that's not necessarily the root cause of it. So with hypnosis, the beautiful thing is we allow the unconscious mind to take them back to the first event. And often that's an event that they aren't aware of. And they go, wow, I'm here, but it can't be that because this was nothing. You go, wait a minute, let's find out whether it was nothing. Often they'll go back to an event and they'll just burst into tears, like, and they're really sad because it was such a big emotional event, but they don't necessarily remember that consciously.
Have you found in the last maybe at least year, Gordon, that you've had a lot more clients come to you with everything that we've been going through, and obviously the the shadow self is having a lot of light shone on it,
triggered in a lot of big ways.
A lot of triggers have come up for people. Have you been a lot more busy in the last year and having to help people through these moments, and really this healing process has just begun for many people?
Sure, yeah. I have never been so busy in my therapy. What it is, my life is made up of, I have two businesses. I'm a Spanish teacher with my wife. We have a very successful online Spanish business, which was always the big one. And Spanish is my hobby. So I'm working in my hobby. And I always said, I work in my hobby, because they say if you can work in your hobby, you'll never work again in your life. So I'm working in my hobby. And therapy's always been my hobby. It's like, I never ever looked at it as a business. It was more like, this is my way of giving back to the universe for all of the help that it's given me. But suddenly now this business is really, really taking off. So much so that I'm booked up until June with clients. I mean, I really can't take on more clients. But what I've been doing is I've been teaching what I know with a really big group of people, because what I'm being told from my guides is this, that there is coming, and it isn't here yet, but it's coming, the great healing, which is linked with the great awakening. Because as people are awakening to everything, they are going to realize what they've been doing. And what I've been told is that one of the biggest things that we're going to have to deal with is guilt and shame. Okay, because people are going to come with a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about what they've done over the last however long. Yeah. So I'm training up these therapists so that people don't have to wait until June, because they're going to come in floods. That's the feeling that I get. We haven't seen it. I've been mega busy, but I don't think it's started yet. I really do think that there's going to be, you see, what I've been doing over the last couple of years is very what I would call 5D. Okay, so past life regression, and people, I had people, it was hilarious at the beginning, people sending me an email saying, I'd like to talk to my higher self and do a past life regression. And I'd say, well, I'm booked up for the next 3 months. And they say, it's no good. 3 months is no good, because I'm being taken up in a spaceship next month. Right. And I say, well, look, if you're still here, then contact me, in a couple. Yeah. So it was very, very 5D, the focus on everybody. And I understand that, because the people that were coming to me were the ones who were in this incredible awakening moment and realizing the spiritual side and everything. But what I'm starting to see is that's very 5D. At the moment, what I believe we should be doing is sorting out our 3D. We need to sort out our 3D, because if we really want to reach 5D and stay there, because we're bouncing backwards and forwards, aren't we, all the time? It depends on what our thought process is doing. If we want to stay there, we've got to get the 3D sorted. We live in 3D. We're not living in 5D. We're in 3D. And you know that, because if you hit yourself over the head with a hammer, it's going to bloody hurt, right? We're in 3D. So we've got all of these issues that need to be resolved. And I believe it's part of this ascension process, is the cleansing. So yes, I've been very busy, but what I'm starting to see is that the interest is in healing the body, healing the psyche, healing us. Yeah. And I think it's going to be massive.
I think a lot of people, Gordon, will maybe get confused as well with the whole 3D, 5D thing, because they don't understand maybe how it all works together. But essentially we're 3D, we're humans, we're living in this 3D world, but we're raising in consciousness and raising our vibrations. So it's essentially that we're in a 5D space, but we're living in this 3D realm. And that's sort of what we're trying to achieve, like ultimately a heaven on earth type of experience. I think. And, you know, healing is a part of that process, so you can get more clarity. Just one last question about the hypnosis before we move on, Gordon. So if people come to you for sessions, can they then take away certain tools that they can use?
Yeah, well, you're going to put the links to my channel. I have done two, I think, wait a minute, I've done this on the Hypnosis Academy channel, because I've got two channels, one where I just talk about hypnosis and one where I talk about spirituality and all of that. I have done a tutorial on how to do self-hypnosis, how to get into self-hypnosis, and then I've done another tutorial on what do you do when you're there. Yeah. So if anybody wants to watch that, then all they need to do is watch it. It's a very simple process. It isn't complicated. Hypnosis is natural. We do it all of the time. So it's a very natural thing that we can do. So, and then I coach you on what you have to do. And it's not difficult once you're there as well. Really, it's just giving yourself really positive suggestions and visualizing yourself into the next stage of your ascension, not, if you want to call it that. So yeah, it's there. And I also give my clients other techniques like havening and EFT, which is the EFT, the tapping, and havening to balance out the emotions, because our friend and our enemy are emotions. You know, when you're feeling good, I mean, you can climb up walls, you can run up walls, but when you're feeling bad, you're very unresourceful. So we need to start managing our state, and it's easy with tools. If you've got tools, it's when you haven't got any tools and you think, I feel really sad and I don't know what to do about it. I call a friend, but you can actually sort yourself out.
Yes, one of our healing techniques is talking to each other and talking things out. And we really do talk to the death sometimes on things with certain discussion points, just because that's for us. And especially now that we work together, that hasn't always been the case. But it was funny because that was something that was always in the back of our minds, that we might end up doing something together. We just didn't know how that would look and how we would get there to do that. Inevitably, here we are doing this. And, we have our own YouTube channel now, which was something that we started very reluctantly. Didn't ever think we would be doing this. And we didn't even have social media before this, Gordon. We just didn't want to. We found it very sort of intrusive to our lives personally. So this has been quite, a journey for us in terms of becoming familiar and becoming comfortable with this kind of medium and communicating in this kind of way. So it's funny that what I was saying about the YouTube channel, where we sort of started, we did. I think we talked about this off air. We went on Charlie Ward's show and we were talking about the situation of where things were at here in Australia. And it was just out of sheer frustration that we ended up speaking to Charlie, wasn't it? It wasn't planned or anything like that. And, we're still talking to him today, and we tend to talk about those sorts of things. But our channel has kind of evolved in that sense that we are recognizing that people need more ways of healing as we come through this. So it's not, as we go forward, it's not so much about the information, because certainly we are thrown so much information on a daily basis and expected to process that. That's quite hard to do, even as awake people. It's quite hard to process that amount of information. So what we've recognized in this process is that we need to really, this is what we're doing. It's just evolved naturally that we're tailoring the channel to more of a healing kind of channel and helping people through the process, giving them the tools as you are, helping them to manifest into their life what they want, giving them the chances to, or the opportunities to look at their own lives and find their own truth, because certainly what's coming through in this whole process is shining the light on the truth. So if you are lying, there's a lot of creeps and criminals out there that have been lying to the world. But if you're lying to yourself, that's also a crime, because you're doing that to yourself. So you really need to find out what it is that you can really do. What can you bring to this world and be happy, find yourself being happy in that process. So having said all of that, I just wanted to ask you how you ended up creating your YouTube channel in this process. What was it that led you to doing that?
So I've done two things. When I started learning therapy, one of the things I wanted to do was to help ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who were coming out of a cult, and I wanted to help them heal, because it took me 25 years to heal from it, but I realized I could, and I saw lots of walking wounded from this cult. So I started a channel where my focus was on Jehovah's Witnesses, and that went really well. I mean, there's tons and tons of wounded ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. But then what happened was, as I started to progress, the messages I was getting were, you need to do more than this. And there are more people that need other messages. So I started to kind of look at, what's happening in the world, and how to be a good parent, and how to eat properly, and how to protect yourself, drink clean water. And I started down that path. Yeah. And then, of course, the madness happened 2 years ago, started. And well, actually, I have to go back 3 years ago. Right. So I went on, I started with ayahuasca retreats. Okay. I don't know if do you know ayahuasca? Yeah. So I was drawn to it. I knew I wanted to do it. I found somewhere local, and I went and had this wowzer experience. And part of the experience was, I was told, because obviously you're given a lot of messages in these moments, I was told, you must start meditating, Gordon. You must start meditating. And it was like, they were so insistent. So as soon as I got home, I started to meditate. This was 3 years ago. It's the very first time that I meditated. I've done lots of hypnosis, but I didn't do meditation. I thought it was too hard. As soon as I started meditating, I was contacted by some light beings. And I was like, nearly shit myself. Like, what? And they said, we have a message that we want you to give. And the message is about the Great Awakening and the good news about the Great Awakening. Okay. So I agreed, very reluctant. I mean, I thought, what on earth? People are going to think I am mad. And I was never a fan of channelers. I used to think we're making it up. I used to think they're just making this up. Obviously, I've had to rethink all of that. And I said, what's your name then? What do we call you? And they said, we are called the emissaries of God. And I was horrified. Emissaries of God. What? I mean, I've been talking of making fun of the Bible and talking about religion. And then suddenly they said they were the emissaries of God. Afterwards, I found out that they're working with millions of people, they tell me, and they have different names. But they chose the name for me because they wanted me to help. They wanted to help me to improve my relationship with God, because I was a bit angry. Yeah. So it was from that moment that they said, we want you to give this message of great hope. It's coming. It's here. It's upon us. The Great Awakening is upon us. This was 3 years ago. So I started using my Jehovah's Witness channel to start doing this. Well, of course, I lost all the subscribers. They obviously went, what there? Gordon talking about you? He's talking about God and everything. And so I had to kind of rethink how I was going to do it. Then I started to build a new audience. And what I found was the audience that I built are all healers. All the people that watch my channel are healers in different modalities, but they're all attracted to healing. So clearly I can see now the path of why I was taken down that road. So then because of that channel was incredibly shadow banned. They said I was using hate language. And so I was shadow banned. So it was monetized, but then it was demonetized. And of course, if YouTube isn't monetizing your channel, they do nothing. They don't want to help at all. And then if you're shadow banned, well, so I opened a new one, which I think that they've also shadow banned that one, but I don't know, maybe. But anyway, and that one's called Peaceful Rebellion. And in that one, really the focus is me passing on the messages that I get from the emissaries and converting them into something useful for people so they can use them in practical ways in their life. And really the purpose of it is just to help everybody get through this. That's all that we have to do, is just get through it. We don't have to do necessarily anything special, except maintain our vibration as high as we possibly can, because we are the ones that are changing this. We are the ones that are bringing the Great Awakening here. It's us. And obviously there's a lot of other help, and there's a lot of other stuff happening as well. But on a day-to-day basis, we are creating our reality. And so if we keep our frequency high, and that's, it ties in with the therapy that I'm doing to help people sort out the 3D. Sort out the 3D, your frequency is going to go whoosh, and then we're going to bring everything faster. That's all. It's like, it's coming. There is no stopping it. But if we want it to come faster, we've got to sort ourselves out. That's the message, really.
A couple of points we'll speak to about that. We totally understand the banning, or shadow banning. I don't really want to say the things in unison with our channel as well. And a lot of the times we look at each other and we say, why? why? What are we even saying? Like, we're so careful with things. But you know, you talk to different people along the way, and they've had hits, and then you take the hit from them, and it just kind of goes like that. But you know, obviously, if they're trying to shut you down, it's because you've got something good to say. So we just keep reminding ourselves of that, and we just try to keep encouraging our audience. And we would encourage your audience to do the same. Like, go back and watch the video again. Go back and give it another thumbs up if it's come off or something like that. Do whatever you can as audience members to help us out here, because we're trying to help you guys and communicate these messages. So as Gordon was saying, and just in regards to your emissaries, I just wanted to ask you briefly, like, how do you actually make contact with them? Do they come to you through dreams generally, or is it just any part of the day? What's the process normally?
Okay. So at the beginning, it was wild. What would happen the very first time? It was in meditation, and they threw my head back like this, and I was stuck like this, and I was thinking, this is really the most uncomfortable position I've been in for a long time. And it was because they were saying, right, we need to download to you. We need to bring you up to the very highest point of the frequency that you can be at the moment. You know, what they were saying was the frequency's constantly shifting higher. And so what we need to do is keep shifting ourselves. So at the front end of that movement. So they would it would always be in meditation, but then they would do these downloads and would say, we're just going to be downloading to you as you go through the day. Sometimes I didn't know in what reality I was in. I remember once working in the garden, and I was thinking, I don't know where I am. It was like, you know, if you're in a dream or not in a dream. And I was thinking, am I really here? Where am I? And afterwards I said to them, can you just slow that down a little bit, please? Because it's a bit difficult to manage. You know, I've also got to live my life. But that was at the beginning. Now what happens is this. Typically on a daily basis, I will sit aside, take 20 minutes, and I'll just sit with them. And I also asked them not to put my head back like that because it was too painful. I couldn't manage it. So they put my head forward now, which is okay. I can handle that one. And what they do is they download the very latest level. That's what they say. So you're up to speed. And it's only about 20 minutes. And then during that period, I will ask questions. I'll just say, you know, what's new? What have you got to tell me? And they might give me some things. But normally it's through questions. When I say, when's this going to happen? Come on, when? You know, I ask this a lot because they won't talk about when, by the way, because they're not in our time. They don't talk about when, but they talk about a lot of things that you can take an idea from. That's kind of how I do it. I ask questions, and I also run twice a week. And when I'm running, I get massive downloads because it's really deep meditation when you're running. And I get nearly all the material for my videos while I'm running. I have to stop and I have to write it down on my phone. I write it down and then I carry on running. So that's kind of how it comes, formally or through running.
Oh, that's so interesting you said that, because I've always found it very difficult to meditate in, you know, the usual kinds of ways. You might sit there and, you know, what do they call that, lotus pose or something like that? Those, you know, very sort of commercial ways of looking at meditation, or even if you're just laying down. I actually find myself, I don't like to sit still that much. So for me, that doesn't work, meditating in those kinds of ways. But I've been saying to Julia for a long time now, that when I'm running, I actually get a lot of things through like you do. And it's not just necessarily, you know, messages from guides or things like that. It's ideas. I get, you know, inspired. Even if I'm listening to music, even if I'm listening to videos of other people, it comes through, because that's when I really, it's just time for myself. And I'm doing it whilst I'm getting fit at the same time. And I'm out in the air, I'm out in the fresh air. And, you know, we often find that the best time for us to manifest is actually if there's something that comes to us that we want to achieve, we'll actually go out to a spot in nature somewhere. And hopefully it's by the water, like normally it'll be by the water. And we actually sit down and we talk about what we want to manifest. And it helps us to do that together sometimes individually.
I find messages come to me, Gordon, when I'm in water. So if ever I'm in water of any kind, that's when I'll sort of receive messages. Or if I'm stretching my body in some way, so it's movement or getting energy flowing or creating some sort of space within my body. So yes, the running thing definitely resonates with us in terms of, you know, receiving these messages. Gordon, do you think everyone has the potential to receive messages like this? And does everyone have emissaries?
I'm
Or
pleased you've asked that question, because there are a couple of things that stood out from at the beginning. When the emissaries came, they said, we want you to send a message out. And I said, what? With the subscribers I've got, that's not going to be much of a message, is it? I said, I haven't got a big public. And they said this: it has nothing to do with the people that hear the message. The power of the message is in the speaking of the message. And they reminded me, in the Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word was the creation. And so they were saying, it's the speaking. When you speak your truth, your message, it goes out into the ether and it starts doing its work. Yes, if it falls on other people's ears, even better. But they're saying, you just speak it. Yeah. So they were absolutely cool with the fact that I didn't have a big audience or anything. They just said, no, we just want you to say these words. And that's what I did. The other thing, the message they've said to me over and over again is, they said that we and many other light beings are working with millions of people, whether they know it or not. They're working with people who don't know it, but who are just entering into states of relaxation, really. But also they said this: we are waiting to contact anybody who gives us permission to contact them. So what I would say to people is this: meditation is not what it used to be. It doesn't need to be. Before, we used to have to do like an hour and a half of meditation to get any kind of level. Now the frequency is so high in this world now. It's so high that 20 minutes is going to be a beautiful session. You can get incredible insights in 20 minutes. I don't meditate more than 20 minutes. I get everything I need in that time. So can everybody else. All you need to do is go into the meditation with a question. So you go in just with a question, and then in meditation, ask the question. And then this is the key. The key is trust the very first answer that comes to you. Right? What happens is this: our mind, and this happens the same in hypnosis. When we go into a meditative state and we ask a question, our higher self and all of the other beings that are there answer immediately, quickly, and in a whisper. What happens? We dismiss it and we go, I just made that up. I just made that up in my head. In comes the ego, bumbling in, shouting, because the ego always shouts and it says, no, I'll tell you what the answer is. No, that wasn't big enough. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't bright enough. We want more pizzazz. And the ego gives you the message. That's the one you have to ignore. The shouty, loud voice, ignore it. And you've got to listen to that very quiet one. The ego is with you. They're trying their best. If you imagine, we're here in this heavy vibration. They're up here in this light vibration. When we go into meditation, we bring ourselves up and they come down. They're trying to get that connection. So that's why the voice is not going to be mega strong. It's going to be a whisper, but you've got to listen to that and trust it, because you see, the problem is that their messages are so simple, so basic, so obvious sometimes that we dismiss them and we think that we're just making them up. But no, the obvious, basic, simple messages are the true ones. They're the ones that we've got to listen to. We make it so complicated sometimes.
I love how you put that, Gordon. That just really breaks it down, I think, for people. And I think also, I know I do this. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get answers. And if I don't have an answer, I'm like, why don't I have the answer? I should know this. I think I'm intuitive. I can feel things a mile off. I always have. But why can't I figure this out? And I'm a Gemini, so maybe I overthink everything, but I'm impatient. But yes, it is the simple sort of things, isn't it? I love that, because when you go into that stillness, you really can get little things come through. I wanted to just quickly touch on how do you feel that you could maybe explain for people how they can tell the difference between their intuition and what is fear. Would you say it's kind of similar to what you said then, with the soft kind of voice coming through, the more simple thing coming through?
There's the voice thing is a really, really important tip. Listen to the quiet. It's always immediate. It's immediate. The answer comes through immediately. However, there is another little trick that you can use as well. And it was interesting when you said that when you're in water, you often get a lot of intuition. And my intuition used to come when I was showering, always when I was showering. Why? Because because your mind, you haven't got a phone, you haven't got anything, you're just there like meditating, la la la, and you've got loads of water on you. So how did I know when I used to get a message that wasn't from me? Because it's the feeling that it brings with it. There's a feeling that comes with it, which is a feeling, and it's hard to describe, but it's an uplifting feeling of this is right, this is nice, this is good. And I always knew when it was right, because I would get this, like an excitement, like right. Yeah. The ego and the fear, you get another feeling, which is, oh, this is wrong. Oh, you feel anxious. The ego mind tells you that you have to do things, and it makes you feel anxious. Yeah. You should be doing more. You should be more spiritual. You should be whatever. And that makes you feel anxious, like inadequate, lacking. So you always know the ego, when that comes in, is always going to make you feel worse. You're always going to feel in lack. Yeah. The higher self, these beings, when their message comes through, you feel absolutely wonderful. You feel, oh, right. Yeah. Like a light bulb moment type of feeling. That's what I get now is like, when they give me an answer, sometimes I think, oh, of course, it's that feeling. That's when you know. That's when you know it's them. Yeah.
Something else came to mind when you were sort of speaking about that. And I feel like as hard as the last 2 years has been for so many people, it's also given, like, especially people that have been forced out of their jobs and things like that. And Carly and I left our jobs in the media about 3 years ago now, as we two and a half as we preempted, this really, really big darkness that was coming over the world. We could just sense it, and we're like, well, this isn't right. We can't connect with this anymore.
It was the oddest kind of feeling. We were doing our normal jobs, and we would, meet up at lunchtime and that sort of thing sometimes, and we'd be like, I don't know, what is this feeling? Why do we have this feeling that we have to move on? Because, I was relatively happy in my job, and, Julia had a good job as well, and, making decent money and all the rest of it. So it was just this odd feeling. Sorry, I interrupted. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that it was a strange feeling that came upon us.
But having said that, Gordon, we'd sort of worked up to this point, and kind of achieved all of our sort of goals, I suppose, that we wanted to in the entertainment industry, and me through my dancing, and Carly through hosting and things like that. And we got to that point where we almost, I think, gave up in a sense of, is there anything else? We always knew that something like this would happen, but we just didn't know when. But we always had that underlying feeling of this sort of thing will happen. But I think I was at that point where I kind of was like, oh, maybe I just have to put up with this. This is it. This is all there is, really. Everyone has to either struggle or whatever it is. And I want to direct this to people watching, if they have, been shafted out of their job or for whatever reason. This really has given people an opportunity to dive deep if they want that opportunity within themselves. And it's that force that you get when you have to make money, you have to pay for this, you have to do this, that takes you so far away from your intuition a lot of the time and being creative, that has given people so much confusion. I know that that's where a lot of my confusion has come from, and it's breaking all of that down and getting to the point of, what is my intuition, and it's okay to follow it, and you will be supported if you do. So I just want to put that message out there for people that, and I really do hope through this process and through healing and hypnosis and all these different types of modalities that it becomes a lot easier and quicker for people, because we've been in this confusion state for such a long time that, everyone deserves a lot better than that, and that they can just follow that intuition, and that's okay. It's not a forced situation anymore. That force really ruins things, I think, in relationships, in every aspect of life. So I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, well, obviously money is obviously something that really fears people from leaving jobs or perhaps leaving relationships, because there's that sort of stability that you have when you have another person helping you to pay for things. And so many people, I'm sure, have gotten into relationships for that reason, which is sad, because you might be missing out on someone else who you might be more appropriate for you. But and then I forgot where I was going with this conversation too. But what I wanted to say is that, you've been there, Gordon. You've been at rock bottom, so to speak. You lost everything that you had, and you had to sit there and start again. And a lot of people right now, including ourselves, you know, you're going through challenges financially, you're going through challenges emotionally, and it actually still feels okay. Like it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. The world is still there. We're still here. And if you can get yourself to that point, you realize that, you know what, you're closer than you think, and you can manifest money. You can. We've done it. Yeah, we need to manifest a lot more, obviously, but you know, sometimes it takes time. You've got to realize what you can actually do, realize what your skills actually are. And when you take all those fear things away and all of those distractions, you're going to be probably pretty good at it when you give yourself a chance. So would you agree with that, Gordon?
I agree with what you both said. I think I think where we are now is this: we have never been so lucky to have what happened happen. This is the reset of our lives in for a very positive, in a positive way. And I think, I mean, I was, when I lost everything, I was bankrupt. I remember I was bankrupt. I had to go bankrupt, and I never missed eating. I ate every day. I had a house, you know, I had shelter. And so I didn't, and, you know, even when things are really looking really bad, they're not as bad as you think. And there's always a lot of people worse off than you. But one thing I've learned, and I'd like to share this with the audience, is now we've never had so much help. We have never had so much help. And I'm talking about help outside of this realm. All you need to do is ask for help. And how we do that is by surrendering to the help. You see, we've been told that we've got to sort stuff. We've got to get this done. We've got to do this. We've got to work harder. We've got to think about ideas and everything. And then you've got all of this wealth of help and knowledge. And so what I did, and this was just before all of this started with the emissaries, I knew that I didn't know where I needed to go in my life. I had everything that I needed. I'd rebuilt my life. Super affirmations. I was the king of affirmations. I was affirming money left, right, and center. It was incredible. And then I thought, why do I still feel empty then? Why, when I've affirmed, or I've got all of these things around me, and of course the answer's in that, you know, I had things around me, but what I hadn't affirmed was my happiness. And I thought that all the things were going to bring me happiness. And it was a big mistake. And it was like, one day it was like a slap in the face. What a mistake. What you want to affirm is happiness, and everything else comes. Because, you know, that's it. Once you're happy, that's it. There's nothing else to reach. So I went through a process of surrendering myself to the higher power. And it was frightening because I previously in my life had to control things. I wanted to control my life. And my thought was, what if I surrender myself and they take away my family or the things that I love or what's important to me? And that's why I was frightened about surrendering. But then through lots of help that I got, I thought, I've just got to do it. And I was going through, you know, you're talking about running or going through the countryside or whatever in nature. I walked every day through nature with the dogs, and I would just say out loud, very important. When we want stuff, we've got to say it out loud because that's the power. I would say, I surrender myself to you. You show me what you want me to do. You guide me. You tell me what you want me to do. And I just left it. And it was the biggest relief ever. It was like a weight off. I didn't have to do the job anymore. And suddenly my life went zoom, 360 turn. So I would recommend that to everybody. When you're ready, when you really feel, you know, when you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, surrender yourself. Let them, they know far better than you what you need. Of course they do. Your higher self knows you more than you know yourself. Surrender yourself to them.
Yeah, totally agree. You do have to say the things you want out loud. I love that advice, Gordon, for sure.
And I think also it's really about now, as well as the help we're getting, Gordon, it's also about identifying in this process what your values really are. You know, what do you value in your life? And that's really going to help you work out what you ask for, you know, what you need help with.
Yeah. Gordon, I wanted to just touch on a video that's on your channel, one that I personally really enjoyed. Your emissaries, when you communicate with your emissaries, they've talked to you about the Great Awakening, as you said. And this is what your whole YouTube channel is dedicated to. It's about the Great Awakening. It's about helping people through the shift that's happening in the world right now. And I love the fact that, you know, you simplify it in such an easy way. And that's what I love about this conversation, and I love about your videos. And what you do is you do simplify things. And it's obvious why your emissaries chose you to be a mouthpiece, to be a voice, not only because you've got a lovely voice to listen to, but because you're able to communicate in such a simplistic way that can really, I think, tap into people very, very, very quickly, very, very easily. But I wanted to just ask you a little bit about one of your videos, just about the 5 waves of the Great Awakening, which I think the audience will really find interesting. Did you want to maybe share the 5 waves and look at where we are, identify where we are now?
Sure, yeah. You know, that particular meditation surprised me because the emissaries don't go into detail. They certainly don't go into the detail in 3D. It's not their thing. It's not their bag, you know. But I was running and I said to them, so, you know, I was complaining. You know, I'm allowed to complain to them as well. You know, saying it's not going quick enough. I want to see more action. And they said, but remember, we're only in the first wave of the Great Awakening. So even when they started giving me details, my ears pricked up and I said, what 5, first wave? How many waves are there? And they said 5, just like that, instantly. And I was really surprised because they normally don't do this, but this was obviously an important message. And I realized how important it was because of the number of views that it got as well, because it's like the most viewed video. Yeah. And I said, 5. So what are the 5 waves that are coming? So the first wave was obviously the COVID, and that has woken up a tremendous amount of people. And obviously that one's just about done. That wave's just about done. You know, the people that were going to wake up during that one are waking up. And then they went through and they named all of the waves. Now, you need to help me with this because I know you wrote them down. So what was number 2?
Number 2 was the fall of the media.
Yeah. And it was linked because of the way that, because the people who've woken up to the first bit, you know, what's coming out, and we're seeing it now, is that all of the media suppressed all of this information. And it's not just the information on the COVID, but information on other things that happened that they've suppressed. And it's all coming out right now. That's what we're in now. So what they were saying was that the next wave are the people who go, oh, so the media's been lying to us then. Therefore, we can't trust the media. And that's the next wave that's happening. We're in it now. It's happening. It's occurring right as we speak. And now in many of the media stations, they're having to say, this is footage, but we don't know if it's genuine footage. They're doing that in the UK now. We don't know if it's genuine footage. So when you look at the polls, about how the confidence in media, it's like down, it's 20%, 25%. The viewership has just disappeared. People aren't watching it anymore. So this is the next wave of awakening. What happens when you think, if the media's been lying to me, I better look for the truth then? Of course, the truth's out there, as the famous saying goes. Nobody needs to do any more truther videos. Nobody needs to do any more intel videos. We're up to here with truth and intel. I mean, it's like we're chocker with it. It's there. So all that we're waiting for is for people to go, something wrong with this picture, I better have a look. And off they go. Yeah. So that's the second wave. Third wave, once the media falls, is going to be yeah.
It was the damage of this on the podcast.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And because I said to them, which is going to be the biggest wave? And they said wave 3. That was before they told me what it was. And I said, so what's wave 3? And they said, this damage. This is like a pressure cooker that's boiling right now. We're starting to see it. It's starting to come out. You know, all of the information that they hid when they did the trials and all, it's all out there now. But I used to think at the beginning naively, oh, the information's out there. That's it. No, the information's out there. The next step is for people to go and look for it. It's going to be the relatives who are seeing that the damage has been done, and they're going to start to look, and that's going to be massive. Why? Because even though they lied about how many, they're lying about it. But even so, we're talking maybe 1 billion, maybe 1.5 billion people. That's a lot of people, So that's going to be the biggie. That's going to be the whopper, right? The only thing the emissaries don't say is when. But I tell you what they did say to me yesterday or the day before. I said, because I keep asking them, come on, give me an idea. When? And they said, we can't say when because there's a lot of things involved. It depends on our frequency. It depends on what humankind is doing. The more people that are waking up, the faster it's going to go. So it's very difficult to put a timeline on it. But they said, we can give you a metaphor. When you put a kettle on, you ask, they said, ask anybody, how long does it take for a kettle to boil? How long? We don't know, do we? We don't know. And we guess more or less, but we don't know. They said, but we can tell you that it's just about to start boiling. It's just about, when it starts making that noise, the kettle, like, and it's going to boil. Yeah. That's what they said. That's where we are. Okay. For what it's worth. But that one's going to be a biggie.
Oh, that's interesting. Way that it came through to you, because a couple of weeks ago, I get a lot of ringing in the ears, Gordon. So I have intuitive abilities in other ways, but this is one that I haven't managed to sort of pinpoint as yet. But the other night I was trying to sleep, and the frequency of it actually changed. It became a lot louder, number one, and the tone changed. And, I just sort of got up and walked around the house for a little bit just to sort of, rejig myself. And I sort of asked myself, I said, why is this? What's the change of tone for? And what came through to me was the fact that sort of like it meant to me like it was an alarm bell. It was like, time is up. Time's going off, like as if you're cooking a cake in the oven or your roast. The timer was going off and it was ready. It was ready to be served in this case. So I likened that, or I pulled that together with what's going on right now, and it's like, yep, okay, we're here, just like the kettle boiling. So it's interesting that you had that. I thought very much the same with my revelation through this earring. I haven't had that one since then, but it was very different, and it was very noticeably different. So, and I spoke to Joy in the morning. I said, this is what came through. So, look, there are little pieces coming together, and it's nice to be able to share those things as well. Now, number 4, Gordon, in this 5 ways of great awakening, was the fall of the government.
Sure, which makes absolute sense. It made, as they were giving me, I was thinking, yeah, I can see why that would happen in that way, because who's been behind all of this? Who's been pushing every single thing? Who manages the media? Here in Spain, right at the beginning of 2 years ago, the Spanish government poured, God knows, 21 million or 21, had some ridiculous amount of money into all of the private networks. Why did they do that? Well, because when you get 21 million, you're going to do what the government says. And that's what they've done. And so the next stage, once everybody sees, hang on a minute, we've been lied to about this, we've been lied to about that, we've been lied to about this. Who lied? Who forced everybody to get that? Who put them under such pressure, such emotional pressure, such, making them feel bad about being alive? The government. And so that's kind of going to be the last collapse, as I use the expression, like a flan in the cupboard. It's going to, already they did a poll in Canada about what people thought about the government. They did a poll about what people thought about the media, and they've had to, in Canada, they've had to take off all the vehicles. They've had to take off the signage because people were smashing the vehicles up. The reporters can't wear badges or anything like that because they're getting attacked by people. This is a great. It's sad for them. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. They did this stuff. And it's the same. Listen to the way that people are talking about governments now. It's been seeded. All that's going to happen is that all it takes is people just to go and look, all the information's there. They just need to look, and they'll look in their own time. We can't force them. We can't make them look any faster. Yeah.
So what I'm sort of seeing come together with this is, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this 5 waves is almost like it's simultaneous, because if they're going to overlap, it's not like we have to wait, 10 years for the next one to happen. It's happening. There are little bits of each one is happening already. It's just that's perhaps the end of that one comes as number 4. And then number 5 was the last, you said it was the last 30% of the population waking up.
Sure. So here, if you don't mind, I'll get a little bit esoteric, a little bit, right. In the Bible, it talks about the fact that in the Armageddon, right? It's terrible, 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 very like what we're seeing now. And then what happens is Jesus comes in on his white horse and he rides in and he saves all of the people. Okay? Metaphor, obviously. But he doesn't save everybody, because some of them do not want to go. Some of them don't want to go. Some of them want to stay. I've been told over and over again by the emissaries, the split is 70-30. 30% of the people are going to live. And I said, well, how are they going to live? They said they're going to live like they're living in a little cult, like their little religious cult. And they're going to live and they're going to believe and they're going to have their own little do's, and that's fine. But we are going to be the majority. And I hear this all the time. We are going to be the majority. And we're going to start building the golden age. But they're going to be there doing their own thing. What the hell? Let them do the stuff, yeah? But then in the Bible, it says then finally, actually, wait, it says the people who are there are thrown into hell, right? But in a metaphor, that's true. They're living in a hell. This is a hell of a life. So then finally, Jesus comes back and he gets them out as well, and he lets them come out. And that's what the emissaries were referring to with this last group. They're going to be the stalwarts. They're going to be, no, we're just going to do what we're told. And we'll put in 50 of these and, we'll put the chip in and let's do the whole shebang. But then finally, they're going to be saved as well. So there's hope for everybody. That's the the message that the emissaries keep giving me is this: nothing will stop what's coming. And I know that's a cliche as well, because that came from something else, but that they keep saying it's coming. There is no stopping it. The only thing that we can do is speed it up. Yeah. So it's running at its pace. Depending on what we do, we can make it run at its pace faster. That's it. Yeah. Which is why they're here, because it isn't, they're here not to make it happen. They're here to make it happen faster. That's what they say. Yeah. So that's all that we need to do is just, keep our vibe as high as we can, and all of that will happen. The 30%, I don't know when that happens. It's later. The feeling I get is it's later, but that's not our business. Our business is let's be the majority. I mean, there's a beautiful guy who's in Spain. He's a astrologer, and he does astral traveling and all kinds of stuff. And he does some really good timing videos of, he said that at the end of March was going to be the end of all of the pressure. April's going to be the start of taking off the pressure, and everything's going to go back, but blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So he said that we actually enter into the age of light officially, according to the star movements, on the 12th of December. We're actually in the age of light. We've moved from darkness to light. So if you imagine, we've been like this, we're now like this, we're on the flat. And it's quite easy for people to walk over when it's flat now. Before, it was difficult. They had to walk uphill. Our journey's been uphill, hasn't it? That's what it felt like. So that's because we've been here. Now we're flat. 12th of December, we start doing this. Well, when we get like this, people are just going to come pouring in. They're going to come pouring in because the whole thing's leaning toward the light now. So we're in this most beautiful moment. It's only going to get better from now. It can only get better.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that, Gordon. I wanted to dig a little bit more on that video, but if anyone, in fact, I'm telling everyone, go and watch the video on Gordon's channel, The 5 Waves of the Great Awakening. It's a really, 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 it's a short video, but it's really well explained, and it's really concise. Yeah, thank you. But thank you for sharing a few extra points with that as well. Well, Gordon, I think we've probably run over time by now, but it was such an interesting chat, and I probably speak for Julia as well. We've just absolutely loved getting to know you and chatting to people, like-minded people like yourself. It is very therapeutic, and hopefully the audience learns something from this, and their vibration is lifted after watching this.
I hope so. I hope so.
Now, Gordon, just before we finish up, did you want to let the audience know just again about your channels, and then also you're probably not going to be taking any bookings for sessions though, are you? Because you're booked out, you said, until June, was it?
Yes, I am. However, if people want to have a 5D and sometimes a 3D as well. So I have now a group of very solid therapists who've come through my training, who are able to do past life regression, higher self work, and also starting to deal with resolving old emotions in the past as well. So if people want sessions, they mightn't be with me, but I will be able to put them in touch with people who definitely can help them and definitely can give them a lovely, lovely past life regression and higher self experience. So they don't have to wait till June. No. They can have, literally within days, they can have an appointment. Okay. For those people who are watching, because I know you probably have loads of healers who are with you, if anybody's interested in training as a hypnotherapist, then I've just done a series of courses. I'm going to start putting the courses on my website that people can actually do at home. So it's a home course with all the documentation, and people can start to actually learn to be a hypnotherapist and learn all of the techniques that I'm sharing. So I'll be just watch. The best way is just to do the email thing on my website, and then you'll get any information. And then I've got my the hypnosis channel. And then if you like, three times a week, I do a very short video just helping to raise the vibration. So on Peaceful Rebellion. So please come and join me there as well.
Great.
Excellent. And we'll leave all of the details for that below this video. So we urge people to go over there and sign up, subscribe to Gordon's channel if you haven't already. Gordon, thank you so much for joining us today. That was an absolutely brilliant chat. And hopefully we'll chat to you again down the line and see where we're at with this great awakening, all the waves.
Absolutely. I'd love to have another chat. Everything changes so often, doesn't it? It's worthwhile catching up. And thank you for the privilege of being able to share some time with you and chat. I like your dynamic. I love what you do. So just keep doing that.
Thank you for your support as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you have a lovely evening, Gordon. Thank you for everyone for watching the channel, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Bye.
Thanks,
for now.
Gordon. Bye.
Bye-bye.